I wiggle a strand of blonde hair in front of my face and frown at myself in my bedroom mirror. A few months ago, Virginia's older brother William had shown me a trick to combine blue and green magic into turning your hair whatever color you wanted. I'd at first changed it to a flaming red, as I had once when I was fooling around with Kool-Aid when I was much younger, but I quickly grew tired of it. After that, I dyed my hair a dark blue, a shade or two darker than my eyes, and Virginia and Ellen went on and on about how it was the color of the deep ocean and how pretty it was. I never changed it after that, but now that I'm in my non-magical home from the summer, I had to change it back to its original blonde. I'm sure I could always find some non-magical ways of dyeing my hair blue, but with magic it was simple. No muss, no fuss, no cleanup or stains. Plus, I don't know how my parents would feel about seeing me with blue hair. My parents don't know about my magical abilities. They're not allowed to remember. All they know is I'm attending some super nice boarding school about 90 miles away. If they could really see where I went, a magical school full of people with blue skin or fairy wings or sharp teeth, they probably wouldn't let me go, which makes the secret keeping easier, I guess. They definitely wouldn't have let me go back if they knew what sort of danger I had put myself in last year, and they definitely wouldn't let me go back if they knew I married my professor. Even if it was sort of against my will. I was elected as treasurer of the freshman class, which required me to do mail runs at 5 a.m. on Saturday mornings, which is about as unappealing as it sounds. One morning in late January, I walked in to find Professor Hieronymous Grabiner lying unconscious on the ground in the middle of a bunch of sigils and markings, being attacked by a giant demon known as a manus. I rushed over to try to help him without realizing that the manus served his family and Professor Grabiner was protected. I, however, was not, and I felt the world starting to slip away from me. Luckily, Professor Petunia Potsdam, who was something of our headmaster, showed up and saved my life by telling the demon that I was betrothed to the professor. Grabiner agreed to do it to spare my life, and we were married that afternoon. He wasn't happy about it, though, and neither was I, to be completely honest. I had to lie to all of my roommates and friends. I couldn't tell my family anything, even if I wanted to, but to know that I had to keep this a secret from the small family I created here at Iris Academy hurt. It hurt even more when Minnie, the class president who served as our witness, spilled the secret to her roommate, who spread it around the entire school. I had never seen Professor Grabiner look angrier than on that day, especially when he threatened to lock me up in the dungeons of the school until our contract was up, for a year and a day. But he did apologize once he realized that I wasn't the one who spilled the secret, and we've come to a sort of understanding after that. Professor Potsdam told me that he hasn't been in a relationship since he watched the soul being sucked from his high school girlfriend right before his eyes after he dared to venture into the other world with her, and encouraged me to try to turn our contract into an actual relationship. On the night of the May Day ball, I visited his room, and we told each other how we both felt, and I ended up leaving with a kiss I didn't receive on our wedding day. It was a small kiss, short and chaste, but it was my first kiss, from someone who I did genuinely believe cared about me, which is what made it special. "Tori, you've got mail!" My mother's voice drifted up the stairs, and I hopped out of bed eagerly, thundering down the wooden stairs in my bare feet. I picked up the 2 letters my mother had left for me on the end table near the doorway, without seeing who they were from, and rushed back to the safety of my room. I grinned as I noticed one letter was from Virginia and felt a heat creep into my cheeks when I recognized the stylized cursive of Hieronymous Grabiner on the other. I bit my lip, trying to decide which to open first, before stashing Grabiner's letter underneath my pillow and ripping open Virginia's letter. It was a little silly, hiding Grabiner's letter. He may have been my husband, but I doubted it contained any romantic utterings or secret proclamations of love. Virginia's letter was much more interesting, anyway, filling me on all the gossip that I was missing out on by not being in the magical community. Pastel was last seen kissing Big Steve, although everyone knew that was probably not going to last longer than a few weeks. The gossip of me and the professor had apparently made its way into all the magical circles. Oh, great. But apparently these things happen more than could be expected, and she expects everyone to forget about it by the time the new school year starts. Since graduating, William was up busy preparing for colleges, and Donald was off at summer school. I read between the lines and could tell that Virginia was a bit lonely being home by herself for the summer, but at least she could still see her friends and talk to them about what was going on. I can't tell my friends or family anything without being threatened to have all of my memories wiped, and that's not something I'm about to let happen. I got up from the bed and carried her letter with me over to my desk, where I got out a fresh piece of paper and began to draft a reply. Hi, Virginia. It's so good to hear from you. I miss you and everyone else at Iris Academy so much sometimes. It's hard to talk to my parents and friends about anything. It just feels as if we're in two different circles now. They talk about the news and things going on in the world, and I haven't heard about any of it. And I can't tell them absolutely anything about school, so I bite my lip and put the pen down. I can't send this. It sounds like I'm just being whiny. But what am I supposed to tell her? Things are going well? She isn't a wild seed like me. She was born into a magical family. I know that sometimes she wishes she was normal, but I don't think she can really understand how hard it is not being able to tell your parents absolutely anything like me and Ellen do. Well, did. Ellen chose to stay at the school permanently, erasing her parents' minds of all traces of her. At least I got along with my parents. Well, got anyway. I don't know if I'd ever be able to make the same decision that Ellen did. Even if I can't tell my parents anything, I still love them, and they still love me. I couldn't imagine never being able to see them again. So what do I write about? I run my hands through my hair. Technology isn't allowed at school, so I started reading a lot and studying in the library with Minnie, but I can't study anything magic related here, so I've just been reading a bunch of silly comic books and watching bad movies to kill time. I tap my pencil against the desk a few times, trying to get inspiration as for what to write, when I turn around and face my bed, realizing that I still haven't read Hieronymous's letter. I get up nervously and walk over to it, as though it had suddenly gained sentience underneath my pillow. Biting my lip, I snatched up the envelope and sat down on my bed, opening it gingerly. Inside was a small card. Tori, I am sorry that your relationship with your parents has not improved. Most wild seeds usually choose to forsake their old families after their second or third years, but you need to choose what is best for you. Potsdam would like to remind you that, once again, you are always welcome to come back here anytime you wish. You might find your parents particularly amiable to you returning sooner than expected, so long as you ask them directly. In regards to your last question, I have been busy with summer classes, so your company has not been sorely missed. However, I would not be opposed to you returning earlier than planned. H. I don't know why, but as soon as I finish the letter, I am grinning like an idiot. Would not be opposed? Of course, I would never expect him to say that he missed me directly, but this was as close as I was going to get. I bit my lip and hopped back to my seat to continue my letter to Virginia. But it is what it is. But I have been getting letters from Grabby. He hasn't said that he misses me directly, but I think he does. He told me that I can return to school whenever I want, and I was thinking about coming back sooner rather than later. As lonely as we are, poor Ellen is either miserable by herself or is going to have tons of new friends by the time class starts again. I'm going to talk to my parents about it tonight. I'll let you know. Don't have too much fun without me. Tori. I glanced at the clock and scampered downstairs for dinner. Well, someone looks happy, my father noted as he started putting food on the table. We were just about to call you for supper. I tapped my nose. That's why I came down. Smelled something good. But good wasn't exactly the most appropriate word as I looked at the half-burned, crunchy mess of pasta shells and goop on the plate in front of me. What, is this? Your father has been cooking more since you've been away at school, my mom says. This is his version of macaroni and cheese. His version? Of course, it had to be his version because macaroni and cheese was delicious in pretty much any way, shape, or form, and this was disgusting burnt, cheesy goop. Both my parents ate up as if they didn't notice anything was wrong. Had my senses been spoiled while I was away at school? I knew the food there was decent, but compared to the food here, the Iris Academy cafeteria seemed to hold a Michelin star. Mom, Dad, I want to talk to you about something, I say slowly. They continued eating, waiting for me to continue. Well, my friends have been writing to me about their studies, and apparently next year is supposed to be really intense. You know, a lot of work and projects. And I was wondering if I could maybe go back a little earlier, you know, just to get a head start on the year. Of course. My father smiled at me across the table. We can drop you off this Saturday. This Saturday? I mean, it's Thursday now, and I just got back a few weeks ago. Great. He smiled at me before digging into another forkful. I'm so glad you're keeping up with your studies. Such a smart girl you are. I try to force a smile back, but find I am unable to do so, as my mother talks about how this actually meant that she could attend her book club on Sunday night. I just sit there and listen quietly, as if I'm a fly in the room, realizing how quickly their lives had moved on without me. I push away from the table and quietly excuse myself as I climb the steps back up to my room. I had always thought that, as an only child, I was closer to my parents than most kids were. But that's all changed now. Now my parents treat me like a boarder paying rent, exchanging pleasantries, opening up their kitchen to me, but there's nothing really there. I flop face down on the bed and sigh. Is this what I want? Do I really want to go back to school on Saturday? I search my feelings and find that I'm surprisingly excited to go back. Underneath all the disappointment about the disintegration of my parents' relationship with me, I want to see Ellen again. I want to hang out with people in the corridors and see Hieronymous again. And I want to do magic. I roll over onto my back and sigh, brushing some of the blonde bangs out of my face. And I miss my blue hair.